Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. It is Mr. Cowboys fan. Of course, before we proceed into the video, leave a like and subscribe. It is I, Mr. Cowboys fan, where we talk about cowboy things. Okay, so it took me a little while to do this, but basically what I'm going to do for today's video, look, I'm still going to do the late night talk episode, of course, but for the day, give you guys a video for the day. I'm going to do a ranking every Cowboys playoff loss since 1996. And I created my own little tier rankings, of course. We have at the top just absolute heartbreak. At second, I put devastating. At the middle tier, I put delusion. At the second to last bottom tier, I put disappointing. And then at the last one, I put can't be upset. Alright, so let's go through all of these playoff losses and, rank them all from, this tier list. Okay, so, starting off with with the first one, which was the 96 playoff loss, and this one right here. I'm gonna put it in the not there. My bad. There. I'm gonna put the 96 divisional playoff loss at can't be upset. I know it was against a second-year expansion Carolina Panthers team, and we were just coming off of, winning the Super Bowl. But that's my point, is that we were the defending Super Bowl champions. So at the time, as a fan base, I can look at that as can't really be too upset. Obviously maybe it's a little frustrating because, losing to a second year expansion team, that can be a little frustrating, but I decided to, put it at can't be upset. Obviously I wasn't born at the time, but, I'm just saying that, I feel like I can, go into the, eyes and the feeling of a, Dallas Cowboy fan who was living to watch that playoff loss. That, we had won 3 Super Bowls over the last 4 years. It obviously it stings, but can't be too upset. So I'm going to put it in that, list right there. And then I have the 1998 NFC wild card game. And obviously this was, we weren't, at our best strength at this point. The triplets were starting to be a little bit on the decline. And, the Arizona Cardinals, they hadn't made the playoffs in, I think it was 16 years. They hadn't made the playoffs in 16 years. They hadn't won a playoff game at this time. They hadn't won a playoff game in 60 years or something like that, So They came into Texas Stadium, and of course, we just couldn't do a dang thing. You know, Losing 20-7, offense wasn't doing anything. Aeneas Williams was locking Michael Irvin up. So just it was, terrible. But I don't know if I would put that in, devastating or anything like that. I would just, this was, mind you, this was the last game of between, this was the last ever playoff game that the triplets would ever play together. So, but I will put this, hang on. I will put this at disappointing because, look, like, definitely should have won that game. Definitely should have won this game. And, just the Cardinals just happened to have our number in that game. So, it just didn't, just didn't work out. But I'm sorry. These next, these first few, it's gonna be hard to really like give a true like deep dive evaluation. I'm sorry, but yeah, I'm gonna put it in the disappointing category. Up next, we have the 2003 NFC Wild Card game. And I don't know why these aren't all in order. Oh, shoot. My bad. The 1999 NFC Wild Card. See, man, I don't know why these aren't all in order, bro. All right. Screw you, tier maker. But, yeah. So, the 1999 NFC Wild Card going up against they had Randy Moss, Chris Carter, bro, Jake Reed, Robert Smith. This was the absolute decline of our team. Let's be honest, we were just, hanging by a cliff by this point as far as the 90s teams. Michael Irvin obviously didn't play in this game because he had a season-ending neck injury. So, a career-ending neck injury. So, going into it, like, the Vikings were just the better team. They just were. And really nothing that can truly do about it. I would put this in can't be upset. Come on, bro. Like, I know you expect to win every, playoff game, of course, and stuff like that, but come on. Like, going into this game, I have to think that a lot of Cowboys fans were just thinking, look, we got here. The fact that we got here is an accomplishment. Like, there's nothing too much to be upset about. Finally, the 2003 NFC Wild Card game against the Carolina Panthers. All right, so this was the first year of the Bill Parcells coaching era for the Cowboys, and we had been losers, like 5-11, 5-11, 5-11. And Bill Parcells came in, and I know a lot of Cowboys fans, was like, rejoicing, like we have hope. We have a Bill Parcells who knows how to bring in discipline to this team, and just put us in the right direction. His first year here, we went to his first year with the Cowboys, takes us to the playoffs. I remember we played the Carolina Panthers earlier that season, and a few weeks earlier and beat them. And Bill Parcells gave, in his press conference after the game, he gave his, you know, I guess you could say sort of famous line, you can't call them losers anymore. You know, he said, "Look, I was really, proud of the guys out there. They played very, very, they played well today. And that's really, what I wanted to say. I was very proud of these guys. They played hard today. You can't call them losers anymore. So." Um, like that game really like propelled us towards getting out of that losing part of the Dallas Cowboys. Like that really took us out of that realm of just being a bad team for consecutive years. And then we get to the playoffs, and well, the Carolina Panthers, who would go on to the Super Bowl and lose to the Patriots, they took care of business and beat us convincingly. You know, I mean, it's disappointing, but not too upsetting of a not too disappointing of a loss. It's obviously disappointing, but I mean, we accomplished, quite a bit that season. Yeah, we lost in the playoffs, but we accomplished so much for we went from 3 straight 5-11 seasons to winning 10 games, making the playoffs. We accomplished a lot that year. So I would put that in the can't be upset category. So we already got 3 can't be upsets. Upset ones in here. So now let's get to one that was... I mean, do I need to even explain? Alright, like, do I even need to explain? Like, the 2006 NFC Wild Card playoff loss to the Seahawks. I mean, that was absolute heartbreak. So it was Tony Romo's first, he had came in, took over as the starter that year for Drew Bledsoe, and he really showed some stuff, I mean, starting off with his first ever, career start was against the Panthers. He played well in that game, and we dominated the Panthers in that game. And then it just kind of went on, and Romo was 6-4 as a starter. We lost the final 2 games of the regular season, which was obviously, not too happy of a, situation. But, we were limping into the playoffs, unfortunately. However, and we were going on the road in Quest Field to play the Seattle Seahawks, where they hadn't lost a playoff game. Well, actually, my bad. They did lose a playoff game at home to the Rams in 2004. But, yeah, so they have a great home field advantage there. And we're coming off of 2 straight regular season losses to end the year. And it's like, man, like what? They might get bounced out in the first round easily by the defending Super Bowl champion Seahawks. Well, we went out there and we were given, Seattle, the business, and like we were neck and neck with them the whole step of the way and really gave them a run for their money. It was a back and forth game. There were like 7 different lead changes in that game, if I'm not mistaken. Just back and forth, nip and tuck. And the game really broke open for us when Miles Austin returned that punt or kickoff return for a touchdown. But either way, Seattle eventually took the lead back, but we got the ball. Tony Romo drives the team down the field, orchestrating a nice little late game, 2-minute drill type comeback and get down there and actually thought that, Romo threw the touchdown pass to Jason Witten the play before, but then they said that he was short. And so we wound up kicking the field goal. And I know there was a little bit over a minute left still, but it would have definitely set us up for, set us up pretty, to possibly advance. But unfortunately, on the field goal, Tony Romo takes the snap, he botches the snap, and he picks it up. And what people don't tell you about it is he almost scored. He almost went from GOAT to hero in the matter of seconds. But unfortunately, Jordan Babineau tackled him short of the end zone. And he wound up, so yeah, he ends up getting tackled short of the end zone and lose the game. That is heartbreaking. That is heartbreaking for sure. So, and Romo basically, of course, took the heat for the loss. And some will say, for good reason, but I mean, he was a first-year starter, comes in and kind of revitalized the year for us, and he played a pretty good game and had a pretty good drive that he was putting together, and it just didn't work, like, first of all, how many starting quarterbacks do you know that is the holder for your kicker? I mean, the thing is, he started off as the backup and he was taking snaps. He was holding for Martin Dramatica throughout the season. So he didn't get his holding. He still took that responsibility for still being the field goal holder. But I just feel like he's already got too many responsibilities being the quarterback. Why does he have to hold for field goals still? I mean, that's my thing. But it is what it is. Tony Romo fumbled the snap. I'm sure he's, held snaps like 1,000 times, 100 times throughout that season. And, to have that mistake happen in such a crucial game, in such a crucial moment in the game, it's obviously heartbreaking to say the least. And now let's go to the 2007 NFC divisional game. I mean, this one right here, that is devastating. Not exactly heartbreaking, not exactly heartbreaking. However, it was the final the final playoff game in Texas Stadium, but at the same time, we were the number one seed in the NFC, home field advantage throughout, and then the Giants come in and they upset us. The thing is, I can't put it in heartbreaking because there wasn't anything truly heartbreaking about it. We had our opportunities and we blew them. Um, like from Patrick Creighton dropping a wide open pass in the open field, we end up having to punt. Um, Tony Romo taking a couple untimely sacks late in the game, that didn't help. Um, Also, I just wanted to ask Jason Garrett, why are we not running the ball more? I mean, Tony Romo threw the ball 36 times in that game. There is no excuse for why in the world he's throwing the ball 36 times when you have Marion Barber, running the way he was running, and of course Julius Jones. We should have been running the ball. You know? Like, we should have been running the ball more. So, coaching, I felt like, the play calling had a lot to do with it. And Romo, of course, taking the bye week off, the week off to go to Cabo with Jason Witten. I mean, it, that, like, got a lot of attention. And then, well, what happened. The Giants just came out there and they got the better of us in that game. And the Giants had their fair share of upsets that year. I mean, the very next week they went into Lambeau Field and defeated the Green Bay Packers um, in the NFC title game to go to the Super Bowl. Speaking of the Super Bowl, they went on to beat the 18-0 New England Patriots. So, I mean, maybe the Giants just caught fire and got hot at the right time, but we should have won this game, but 13-3, number 1 seed, that was probably our best team. That was, you could argue definitely that was our best team, our best team, and we couldn't get it done. And that's, that hurts. But I put that in devastating. And then the 2009 NFC divisional playoff game. Well, I mean, it's disappointing. I mean, it is, it's disappointing. We had statistically probably the best defense that we had in a long time, you know. Um, Top 10 defense in the NFL. Tony Romo, playing mistake-free football, and Romo getting that monkey off of his back in the playoff game against the Eagles. I mean, it felt like we were really starting to get into our groove. It felt like we were about to have our New York Giants moment, because it wasn't that great of a regular season, but we really turned it on near the end of the year. And then, of course, playoff time in the wild card round against the Eagles, dominating them 34-14. Like, it felt like we were getting hot at the right time. We were about to pull a New York Giants in 2007. We were about to just, upset everybody on our way to the Super Bowl. But then the Minnesota Vikings came calling. They were waiting, and I believe Tony Romo was sacked in this game 6 times. Offensive line didn't do him any favors, and the defense allowed Brett Favre, which Brett Favre normally struggles against the Cowboys, but in this game, he definitely got his full, I guess, well-deserved revenge, if you want to call it that. He had probably statistically the best game of his career in the playoffs, throwing for 200 and 70 some yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, Favre was just in his bag in that game. And then the Vikings defensive line was just hounding Romo all game long. So yeah, I'm gonna put that in the disappointing because it's obviously not devastating or heartbreaking. We just got our tails kicked, 34-3. We just got our tails kicked. So can't really say it was devastating or heartbreaking. Can't say that we weren't upset because obviously we were. And it's not really any delusion either. So, I mean, I'm going to put that in the disappointing category. And then, of course, the 2014 divisional playoff game. I mean, that was heartbreaking. That was heartbreaking. You want to talk about heartbreak. I mean, it doesn't get any more heartbreaking than that. I mean, like, it's just, it's like, a lot of people would say delusion because we continue to say that it was a catch, it was a catch, it was a catch. Now, here's where the delusion comes into play. Because yes, it was a catch. It was. But at the same time, where the delusion comes in is that we felt like, that if they called it right, then we would have won the game. We would have beaten Seattle in the championship game because we did it before in the regular season. Like, I feel like that's where the delusion comes in. But, nah, that's definitely heartbreaking. I gotta put that in the heartbreaking category. I mean, just... there's not really much to say. I mean, Dez caught it. They felt like he didn't. And, nowadays they would call it a catch, but at that time, they felt like, I can't explain it. Words can't describe it. And then the 2016 NFC divisional round. I don't know what it is about playing Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, but for some reason, it's always heartbreak. He just has a way of just snatching the jaws of victory out of you. And this was definitely an example. I mean, what makes this so heartbreaking is we were down 21-3 in that game. Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, the rookie sensations, brought us back. And, they brought us back in that game. And, we tied the game up at 31. And there were 30 30 some seconds left. 30 some seconds. You mean to tell me you can't stop Aaron Rodgers on for 30 some seconds? You can't stop him on a 3rd and 20? 3rd and 20, 3rd and 15. And where the heartbreak really comes into play is that Rob Marinelli dialed up a blitz on the play. Orlando Scandrick came in on Aaron Rodgers' blind side, and I couldn't explain to you how in the world he didn't fumble that ball. I don't know how he didn't fumble it, because he should have fumbled it, but he didn't. He somehow managed to hang on to it. And then, of course, we know what happened on the very next play. The play to Jared Cook. Mason Crosby kicks the field goal twice. And, Packers go on to the NFC title game. And the 2014 and 2016 divisional playoff game were probably the two closest, the two best chances that we had to getting past the divisional round. And, we fought our tails off in both of these games against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And it just didn't... One, we got hoed. Another, Rodgers just doing, I guess, Aaron Rodgers things. And yeah, that's heartbreaking. And then, this one, by the way, I don't know where that came from. My apologies about that one. But then there's the 2018 NFC, the 2018 NFC divisional playoff game. I was going to put this in the can't be upset category, and here's why. Because we started that season in 2018. We started that season 3-5. We started 3-5, and it all looked doom and gloom for the Dallas Cowboys. And then, we got Amari Cooper. We actually got Amari Cooper in even his first game came in that Titans loss, but I mean, come on, we had just gotten him. He hadn't even learned the playbook yet. So his real first game came against Philadelphia. And from that point forward, we just turned it on. We just turned it on. We had that one odd... We won 7 of our last 8 games. That one loss coming to the Colts, just that dud game, that just kind of happened, things happen. This is the one playoff loss of the Dallas Cowboys that doesn't get talked about very much. But we had just beaten Russell Wilson and the Seahawks in the wild card round, and now we're playing the Rams, and, the defense, fell apart, giving up 250 yards rushing. Excuse me, hold up. The defense fell apart, giving up 250 yards rushing, getting absolutely gashed. And, the running game was just, not doing well. Ezekiel Elliott, I don't know what in the world, happened, but, the running game just wasn't there in that game. Dak played well, but the running game struggled, the defense struggled, And outside of Michael Gallup, he was our leading receiver in that game. Didn't really get too much help out of our receiving core too much. And it was disappointing. I mean, I want to say that we accomplished a lot, but I'm not going to do that. I mean, what did we really do? I mean, we started 3-5, but I mean, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be that type of fan, like, oh, look at how we started the season, like I'm going to put it in disappointing because we could have won that game if everybody, especially on the defensive side of the ball, would have just locked in. But yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we got our first delusional game. We got our first game that we're going to put in the delusion category. The 2021 NFC wildcard game. To this day, a lot of Cowboy fans, say that the refs, screwed us with that final play, bumping into Dak. And while that may be the case, at the same time, I mean, we should have never, been in that situation. I mean, we won 12 games that year going up against a 49ers team who obviously this wasn't like the 49ers right now. Like, this was a team who barely got into the playoffs as a wild card, and we should have been able to handle business in that game. We fell behind 23-7, and we fought back and we got ourselves back into that game. But then, we had a fourth down, gotta have it situation that, didn't go our way. 14 freaking penalties in that game. 14 penalties. Inexcusable. That's a playoff record, And then there was 2 penalties by the defense late in the game that had those 2 holding penalties by Neville Gallimore and Randy Gregory not happened. Maybe we would have gotten the ball even earlier and would have had even more time on the clock on that final drive. The Cedric Wilson play. I mean, there was just way too many other, disastrous, things that happened for me to blame this game on the refs. So I'm going to put that in the delusion category. There's a reason why I made this delusion tier ranking spot. And then there's the 2022 NFC divisional playoff game. I mean, this was just disappointing because, our defense was just firing on all cylinders. They were clicking on all cylinders. We held Tom Brady and the Buccaneers to 14 points in the wild card round. We killed them 31-14. And then even in the divisional playoff game against the 49ers, we made Brock Purdy look like Mr. Irrelevant. We made him look like Mr. Irrelevant in that game, and there was obviously maybe a couple of plays that we could have made on defense, but I'm not going to blame the defense really for anything. As far as I'm concerned, they did what they did really any my fault. They really did everything that they possibly could in that game. So I can't even be mad at them. They did what they had to do. They were making stops over and over and over again. But it was the first time in my time of watching Dak Prescott where I can say that Dak played horrible. in that game. He played horrible. 2 interceptions. Both of them were costly, because they both led to points on the 49ers end. And it was just inexcusable. Kellen Moore, like, the thing is that, like, I can't even blame Kellen Moore for that final play of the game. There were plays that he drawed up in that game that actually were drawed up to perfection. I mean, there was a play where T.Y. Hilton was wide open down the field and Dak Prescott just didn't see him. There was a play later in the game where CeeDee Lamb was wide open that Dak could have took, but for some reason he didn't see him again. I have to admit, Dak didn't play well in that game. The offense didn't play well, period. CeeDee Lamb had over 100 yards. He was the leading receiver, and outside of him, nobody else really did jack. But again, there were guys that were... Dak missed some open reads. He played very uncharacteristically in that game that I have to give most of the blame to Dak Prescott in that game. He did not play a good game at all. And I put that in the disappointing category. And then we have the Green Bay Packers game that we just played. I'm gonna put this in the devastating category, and here's why. We at the time before that playoff loss to the Packers, we had won 16 straight games at home. And to be quite frankly with you, the games weren't even close. I mean, outside of maybe a couple of games like against the Lions that came down to a 2-point conversion, I mean, the games weren't even close. Our offense just played better. Our team as a whole played better when we play at home. And playing at home against the Green Bay Packers and getting the number 2 seed. The one thing I always wanted was to get the number 2 seed, because understand what happens when you get the number 2 seed. You get 2 home playoff games. So you practically get home field advantage throughout until the conference championship game if the 49ers don't get there, which obviously we know they did. But I mean, everything just worked perfectly for us. Jimmy Johnson going into the Ring of Honor, against the Lions. The winning the division in the most improper fashion possible. Like, how did the Arizona Cardinals embarrass us earlier in the season, where we played an absolutely pathetic performance, and then they help us by upsetting the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia to help us end up having help us have the inside track to winning the division. Like, it's crazy how that works. So, yeah, I mean, everything just felt like it was breaking right, Getting the 2 seed, you have potentially 2 home playoff games. Like, you're getting the Green Bay Packers. No number 7 seed has ever under the new 14-team playoff bracket, no team has ever, as the number 7 seed, been able to win in the first round. Every single number 7 seed has lost in the first round. And the defense laid an egg in that game. Offense, they were getting clamped the heck up in most of the first half, but they eventually, started to put things together in the second half. They tried their best, but the defense gave up 40 plus points. I mean, there's not really much you can do about that. So I just felt like, a lot of guys just gave up in this game. And hearing Jimmy Johnson during the halftime break, trying to, unfortunately, he's not in the locker room, but trying to rile up the team the best that he can, like hearing him say what he said, like, I almost wanted to cry. I ain't gonna lie. I almost wanted to cry hearing him say what he said, bro, because he made me want to run through a brick wall. He made me want to run through it. He wanted me to go put on some freaking pads. And for us to play as miserable and pathetic, especially defensively, the way we did, I mean, I'm seeing guys like Tucker Kraft, wide open down the field, nobody within 30, 40 yards of him. I almost threw my freaking phone across the room when I saw that, bro. I mean, guys were just wide open. My apologies about the technical difficulties there, but yes, all right, like I wanted to throw my phone across the dang room when I'm seeing those guys getting wide open, whether it was Tucker Kraft on that one on a couple of occasions, Romeo Dobbs. These are third and forevers that these guys are getting wide the frick open on. I mean, it was ridiculous. Everything that we had worked for, everything that had gone the way it had gone that season, and that's it. That's it. That's how the season ends. So yeah, man. Basically, to recap my tier list of the Dallas Cowboys playoff losses since '96. At heartbreak, just absolute heartbreak, I put the 06 wild card game, both the 2014 and 2016 divisional playoff game against the Packers. At devastating, I put the 07 divisional playoff game against the Giants and the last year's wild card game against the Packers. At delusion, I put the 2021 wild card game on there. At disappointing, I put the 98 wild card game against the Cardinals. The 09 divisional. I'm sorry, I've been talking for a while. My throat is starting to give out. But anyway, the 09 divisional playoff game, the 2018 divisional playoff game against the Rams, the 2022 divisional playoff game against the Niners, and then at Can't Be Upset, I put the 96 divisional playoff game against the Panthers, the 99 wild card loss to the Vikings, and the 03 wild card loss to the Panthers. So that is my ranking tier list of the Cowboys, of the Dallas Cowboys playoff losses since '96. I was pretty excited to make this video because I've done a tier list before, just like for fun on my own time, but I've never made one for a video on YouTube before. So being able to do this and go make a deep dive through all of these games was pretty fun, but kind of bittersweet going and making this video. But yeah, I just wanted to do this. Let me know y'all's thoughts and opinions on my tier list. Do you agree? Do you believe there should have been another tier slot that I should have put? Do you think that I feel like for the most part, heartbreak, devastating, delusion, disappointing, and can't be upset, I mean, that's pretty fair, but let me know y'all's thoughts and opinions on this. This was a super long video. My apologies for that, but that's pretty much it. Like and subscribe, of course, to all my audience and to all of Cowboys Nation. This is Mr. Cowboys fan, and we are out.